All right, we're back for episode 133 of Digital Divination.
And I'm Ron Lundeen, and I'm an employee of Wizards of the Coast, and the opinions I express here are mine and not theirs.
Excellent, excellent.
That was quick. That was my quickest disclaimer
I
yet,
know,
I
and
think.
it was so
Yeah.
clear and
You
not even like that was perfect. Well done, well done. After some 100 episodes, you get it down pretty well.
Eventually, I'll learn. I've been there almost 3 years now. That's a long time.
Mm.
Well, off and on, right? Because we've had this show for a long.
Right. I didn't do this show for a while, but
I know that's okay.
my opinions have been mine and not theirs for almost 3 years. That's the
Mm.
point.
But before that,
And
My opinions were mine, trademarked, do not copy under penalty of law, I guess.
there you go. Yeah.
excellent. All right, well, not a lot of new stuff has come out for Starfighter Second Edition, but some new stuff has.
Okay.
Okay, and you may or may not be aware. Um, Alex Spidell has posted this last week about a series of blogs he's going to be doing about Starfinder Second Edition Society Play.
All right. Yeah.
So he's kind of
Yeah,
like
I saw
that.
this and was kind of excited that it sort of puts a marker down as being the first in a series. Like
Yeah.
here's a bunch of stuff we're gonna tell you, and then we're gonna tell you a whole bunch more on this following cadence.
Mm-hmm.
That's super useful.
Yeah, and I think that what it means is they've kind of figured out what they're going to do, and so now they can share it.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty stoked about that. So that's one thing. We also know that sometime this month, maybe even this coming week, who knows, the Mechanic and Technomancer playtests should be coming out.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be real
Yeah,
soon.
it's gotta be.
Yeah.
And finally, we know that sometime this month, Galaxy Guide is supposed to be out.
That's good. Yeah. That's right.
So we know a lot
That is right.
about
It is
stuff
April.
coming, but we don't know anything about this.
Well, can I ask your guys' opinions about a mechanic and technomancer thing? Certainly, when they put out two classes, they don't need to have a sort of common design or common thread, but sometimes they might. And it seems to me that mechanic and technomancer have sort of a narrative thread about a focus on technology. But in Starfinder First Edition,
Mm.
they were very different mechanically.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah. Yeah.
wonder if the Starfinder Second Edition versions of them are they going to remain really independent mechanically, or are they going to have some sort of like design commonality between them that makes playtesting them both at the same time a way to test the sort of the underlying design? Is that I don't know if I'm being too
No, no, no.
obscure, I
I,
guess.
I, I hear what you're saying. And I think it's actually the reverse of that. Okay.
Okay.
So I think they have different mechanics. And I'm looking at the playtest description right now, right? The mechanic syncs with their exocortex to deploy mines, turrets, or command a drone, right? The Technomancer hacks magic to overclock their gear and mod their own spells, right? So they're different kind of areas that they go. Now, what I think they're going to do is that in Starfinder First Edition, there's a lot of overlap over what they could do and how they could do it in terms of skills and accomplishing some things, hacks and crafting, whatever it would be now,
Right.
and
Yeah. Computers and
so
stuff. Yeah.
computers in engineering before. So I think maybe what they're trying to do is be able to show that there are very distinct differences now between them. And so maybe one's going to be more focused on engineering or crafting, right? And one's going to be maybe more focused on computers or arcana, right? Or obviously arcana, the mechanic isn't. So maybe they're trying to demonstrate there is a big distinction. That's my guess.
Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. Well, it's different. Like mentioning that mines and turrets, which are not something that were in first
Yeah.
edition mechanic at all, that's going to be a definite departure from the first edition stuff because we don't what's that mean? What is we know what the drone probably is going to look
Right.
like, right? It's going to look like a probably some sort of drone like animal companion situation. It's going to work under those rules most likely. And are they doing any kind of like because first edition mechanic was you got your exocortex was Well, it was exocortex or
Right.
drone,
Mhm, that's right.
and your exocortex was your brain one, and just to let you shoot better, and the drone
And it
was
kind
an
of
animal
reads that
companion.
way now because it says exocortex to deploy mines and turrets or command a drone. So I don't know if it's exocortex can do all these things or the or is uh, tied to
Well, how much experience
exocortex.
do you guys
Mm,
have with the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Inventor, which has kind of the
some,
overclock ability, right? That it
yeah.
seems the mechanic is gonna be very it could hew very closely to the Pathfinder Inventor. I have not looked at the Inventor under the remaster Guns and Gears, which I think is out.
It's yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. I mean, like the remaster is not going to be like it's not a rework of the whole rework of the class. That the Guns and Gears and whatnot are just sort of like, well, we tweaked it so that it fits and we can reprint it under the Orc license
Mhm.
instead of it
I see.
being sort of under
Mhm.
OGL license, right? But yeah, I think the mechanic. If the two systems, if Python and Starfinder are meant to kind of like, oh, you can use them simultaneously if you like, then the mechanic can't be so close to the inventor that it eclipses it or makes it redundant or just sort of is the same thing, right? Because that's not going to be interesting for people who are want to buy both books,
Okay.
to be sort of mercenary about it, right? So, but there definitely could be some uh, similarities, at least
Right.
some whether or not the like because like inventor had the robot companion,
Mhm.
Mhm.
which wasn't like, it was its own thing. It wasn't like, "Just use the stats for a wolf," and whatever, but it had its own sort of set of the drone companions could be like that, right?
Right.
Instead of being like its own. I mean, it would have to be something because most likely there's no p you know, Tashtari animal companions in player core. There's probably not enough room for that, right? But, let's say there won't be in the future, but, like, what does it take to have a pet in some in in the 2E realm of things. It usually goes like it does for rangers and druids and whatever, right? Like it looks like this and does this, and the robot companion in the robot innovation or something like that, I think it's
Mhm.
called, as
Yep.
in the inventor, is it's very similar, but it's not like, but it has its own quirks because it's a robot instead
Right,
of a
right.
wolf.
Mhm.
But the exchange is the same, right? When you've got one of the pet classes in Pathfinder, then you are exchanging one of your actions to be able to have a certain effect of a thing, and that
Yeah,
effect you have has mathematical bounds, right?
yeah,
And
right,
the
basically.
inventor is a different type of thing, but it still falls within the expense of one action gives you a result within these mathematical bounds of things that occur,
Right. Then that makes it look different a little bit from the summoner, which is
Mhm.
sort of a pet class, but has its own
Like combo
weird
actions. Yeah,
combo action economy. Yeah.
I've got a summoner in my Strength of Thousands campaign that
Mm,
I'm running. We're just about finishing up book 4 of 6, and the summoner player knows their class very very well, and so being able to see the
okay.
interplay of different actions is, I mean, it's kind of really kind of neat to see.
I played really briefly, like 3 or 4 sessions as summoner, and I was like just sitting there because I've never played one before. I got sat down and wanted to make one, just to try it out, and I was like, oh, yeah, it was freaking my being a little bit to begin, but I ended up working it out okay because it was just more to do the. It was like I think someone did this as a meme on social media at one point. It was like you can play with Book of the Dead, play an undead, basically a summoner who is undead who can summon undead, something undead. And
Mhm.
what I did, and I may have told this to y'all before, I was a ghost who summoned his own corpse as
And your
his
Eidolon was
eidolon.
your own corpse. Was the undead
Yeah, my own
Eidolon
was
that was
my
your
own
own corpse.
zombie, basically, and I was constantly like calling it an idiot.
That's
Wow.
really clever.
Yeah, but getting into the weeds with that, but hopefully, yeah, like whatever we see for that. But what do mines mean? What
Right.
does turret mean?
Yeah,
Like
that's
how
actually
like
kinda
that's not something that's in the inventor, right? They have the weapon innovation, which could be a gun, right? You could do that, but what is a turret? Hey, I mean, you got to imagine that it's something that it looks like a turret that shoots some from a different point than your point, but like, is that what does that make that different from a drone? Because that is also something that usually just shoots, goes over there and shoots somebody, right? So who knows? I
You know,
mean,
it's interesting.
I kind of know, but I'm not. I can't say.
You mentioned
Right, right.
the inventor and remastered. So, you remember when they did? I don't know if it was in Starfighter Enhanced when they introduced the weapons and the armor based mechanic uh,
Yes.
archetype.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Was they were kind of like
right,
innovations?
right.
Yeah,
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 that reminds me a lot about what they did with the inventor, right? So you can have weapons and armor as well.
yeah.
You know, so maybe they've taken
Mm,
that part of the mechanic and said, you know what, we're just going to leave that with the inventor, and we're just going to stay more with the core of what the mechanic was originally, which was, exocortex for either um, having it internal for you to aid what you're doing, or
right.
commanding the drone now, or
Something
now
else.
these other things. Yeah, the notion of mines and turrets, I'm thinking with turrets is all of a sudden you can like just roll out, something and a little turret pops up and you have them popping up all over for point defense and things like that. That actually
Yeah,
sounds kind of cool.
That would be pretty cool, and it doesn't need to happen right away either, right? If they come out with and they say, "Okay, well, the 2 things you can do with it is your exocortex or your drone," that doesn't close the door on everything the mechanic can do, even in whatever book the mechanic appears in, right? They
Mhm.
could say, "Well, we've got this,"
yeah,
when it actually comes out, it can be, "Well, we've got this exocortex and this drone and this other thing." You remember that in first edition Starfinder, it w- they sort of broke the mold of the classic Solarian. You are either going to be an armor
Right.
Solarian or weapon Solarian, melee weapon
yeah.
Solarian. And they're like, oh well, except here's a range weapon one now, right? And I feel like that kind of expansion that gives a class a whole new way to look at what its core feature is a really neat way to expand and
Mhm.
sort of keep the class alive. In some cases, it's maybe a little obvious that the class can go that way. When the champion first appeared, and you could be lawful good, neutral good, and chaotic good. I mean, it was just everybody knew it was kind of a matter of time before you got the bad ones too.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah.
but that's I think that even if that's not something we see right away in the playtest, or even if we don't see it in the book that it comes out in, that doesn't mean that that's not going to end up being a perfectly valid direction for a mechanic to go.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's one of the things. If a good class, when it's designed, if it has like specific class paths, like a fighter doesn't have that, it just has let's feel, But if it has specific class paths, if the more open that is, the more you can sort of make more of them, the better I think kind of design the class
Mhm.
is.
Mhm.
And like there's like in a way like sorcerer bloodlines can is nigh, and it's not infinite, but it's pretty cool. You can think of other things to be blooded in
Yeah,
some way,
right,
right?
right.
Right. And there's so many already in there, and you can, I don't, add a couple more here and there. It's not that big. But you can always just sort of add that as a back matter for an adventure or something,
Mhm.
something that, or another book, right? So yeah, so it's like you said, fingers crossed. There'll be more stuff that it can
And I think
do.
that's the thinking,
Like
right? In
add to it later on. Yeah.
And the opposite of that is something like the cleric, where you're picking cloistered cleric or war priest, and that was kind of it for the bulk
Yeah.
of all of Pathfinder. So for much of Pathfinder Second Edition time, there wasn't enough kind of design room for something else necessarily. So I think that there's been some lessons learned about making the classes sort of expandable in the
Yeah.
future in a way, and I'm excited to see that.
I got a question for the other bit of this is the
Right.
technomancer, and I've heard a lot of complaints about the one E technomancer in the past, and I want to know if how what you all think about it, and how do you feel like it is something separate from basically being wizard with space adjectives appended to it instead of a spell book. You have a data cache or whatever it was. What do you all think about that?
You go first, John.
Yeah, I played it as a space wizard. I mean, so
Hmm.
that was kind of my sense for it. But you think about at the time. So before we had Witch Warper and all these other things. Because Technomancer came out. If you were doing magic, you had the mystic or you had the space wizard. I thought it was wholly appropriate. I like the vibe now that it's going towards hacking magic and or
Hmm.
kind of like
Hmm.
more hybridization with technology, because technomancer sounds more like a
Techno.
technology magical hybrid. And so it looks
Mhm.
like it's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
going in that direction. I didn't really feel it that as much before though.
No, I agree. No, so that's what I hear from
Yeah,
people talking about it first. It didn't feel techno-y
yeah,
enough. It just kind of
Mm,
felt sort of magic-y with sometimes the occasional, you know, techno word, computery word kind of thrown into its abilities, whatever. But yeah, it's good to see that they want to move it to because again, if this is meant to be compatible,
right,
you got a wizard,
right.
and there's no point in just making space wizard.
right. I feel very much the same way. When Starfinder First Edition first came out, I was not particularly excited about the Technomancer, and I think it's probably fair to say I was never particularly excited about the Technomancer, and that's because it was too close to the classical wizard, whereas the Mystic was different enough from the classic cleric that it felt like kind of a
Mm,
new thing. And playing a
mm,
Mystic in a Cosmic Birthday, I feel it is very different even from not just sort of the archetypal cleric in a role playing game, but even the
yeah.
Pathfinder Second Edition cleric. It is distinctive enough
Mm,
from that in the way that it sort of rolls out the healing and the identity and the magic that it does. So I quite like that a lot. I think that the big problem with building a technomancer from the get go is being this is the one that hacks magic, right? Well, I mean, hacks what? There's no there's no wizard in the game. The closest thing you've got is this technomancer, and anything that they are hacking isn't something that they are contorting or using in a new and interesting way. They are by definition the only way to do it. Their hacking kind of doesn't really
mm,
do anything. I feel like having the technomancer come later,
Hmm. Mhm.
after we've seen, for
Right,
example, the witch warper,
right,
which has its own way
right.
of releasing magic, can really make you feel like you're actually hacking, like you're breaking something. You're breaking the rules of something
mhm,
in a
Right.
way that makes you feel good. I
mhm,
think
yeah.
I think that the when people first heard that the Starfinder player core was going to omit two of the classes that they thought were kind of fundamental to the game. Oh, the mechanic and the
Right,
technomancer are going
yeah.
to come later. For the technomancer in particular, my immediate thought was, well, good, because you want to be the one that subverts the expectations of a casting class to come after you've established the casting classes, not in the same
Mm,
book.
mhm,
Mhm.
mm. Good point.
Yeah, I always thought of those 2, though, as, like, your primary hackers, right? Your technology, computer, equipment
Sure.
Yeah.
hackers, and so that like, when we're playing Cosmic Birthday now, it kind of feels weird to have all the other classes doing the hacking. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Oh,
you mean like using the computer skill?
yeah, yeah,
But the
uh
technomancer couldn't really deliver on that in first edition either because the operative was just better at it.
well,
That's
that's
a
a whole
skill. The
separate
operative's
problem, the
better.
whole operative,
Yeah,
Yeah, that
that's
yeah,
right.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
that's,
I
yeah.
shouldn't be blaming
yeah,
the technomancer for the faults of the operative.
yes, yeah. Yeah, and I'd like to change. It's funny now in our Cosmic Birthday playtest. We don't have anybody who does the hacking like the mechanic or the technomancer. So we're always saying, "How about the operative?" And the operative said, "I got no skills, man. It's completely different."
I'm single target
Yeah,
damage now. That's
yeah,
my
yeah.
jam.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of neat to see that big swing there.
Yeah, and I think the envoy, which is the new sort of skill monkey,
Mhm,
our envoy has just poured everything into the charisma skills, and
yeah.
so that's what she does.
Yeah.
Yeah, my Schwarber can
And
do
but
some stuff too, but yeah.
you're int, but yeah, and you're int based. No, is Witchwarper charisma
Mhm.
based?
Yeah, John's a witch
Okay.
warper.
Yeah, well,
No, but is he charisma skill? Is
geez,
it your key attribute
I
charisma,
don't think so,
or is
no.
it
I think
intelligence? It
I
it's
must
think
be
that's right.
charisma, right?
I think that's right.
now I
Yeah.
gotta go look. Come on, man. How do I have a core book here?
Just draw it real quick. Pull up the Foundry game.
It's not I don't know if it's running.
It is. It's always
Oh, okay,
running.
I didn't know if yours was always
I
It's
pay for a
always there,
server.
John. It's
You can always get
always
on it
there.
unless I've got
Yeah, I
another
know. I
game
have
open.
I do the same thing, but
You can
I'm
always
used
click
to
it.
other people's that aren't always running. Well, you guys talk amongst yourselves as I try to get this figured out. So,
All
Oh,
right.
while you get the
Fair
answer
enough.
to, I mean, but literally, I
Okay,
could just
Ron.
reach back and grab the book
I know,
and
but I'm
see what
already
I'm
halfway
going to do that
there.
right now.
Oh, that would be you would be turning your head away from the camera. Oh, he's turned his face away
I
from the
just did it. I
camera.
just did it. I went like what is it when you
And I didn't
cross
have to.
upstage or down to whatever the cardinal sin in the theater
You
is.
I'm
never
downloading world data. This is
face.
so long. Whose server is
Oh, I'm
this?
sorry.
Okay.
It's not a
Intelligence.
well, who knows what
Intelligence
it
is what
is.
witch warpers use.
Yeah, I thought it was
You
intelligence.
are the smarty one.
Oh, you're the smart one every day.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I have a +4 int. I mean, modifier. Yeah,
Yeah, you
what
should.
I think in terms of
You have a -1
skills,
charisma.
yeah,
Okay,
I
fair
have
enough.
quite a bit. Anyway, yes, so I end up being one of the people that can do the hacking and stuff,
Yeah, you can
which I actually like. I'm
computerize.
glad that the Witch Warper is int
Mhm.
based. I kinda
Yeah,
like that. So it's the new space wizard, but it's not like a regular wizard. It's different.
it's not. It's almost space sorcerer, but not
Right.
really. Also, it's way different. It's different. It's got its own little shtick, right?
Yes.
That you
Mhm.
do the bubble, right, and do weird
Yeah.
things with that. It's got that. It does have that two-part thing that is like how the psychic works with two parts of it. You know, you pick. It's not one choice, one class path choice. It's
Right.
a class path made of two different things. So there's a good is a kind of a fun combo
Yeah, I've liked it. I
number.
never really enjoyed the Witch Warper in Starfighter First Edition. So, I
Mm.
kinda like the change of flavors. I actually really like the precog, and so I'm glad that that's an
Right. Yeah.
option. Yeah, because Ron played a precog in one of my games, and I thought,
I did.
"This is
Yeah.
so much fun. I can't believe how great this is." So I'm
I
kinda
I think that now that my odds of playing Starfighter First Edition ever again are pretty low because the exciting new thing is Starfighter Second Edition. I think that I can look back on that and say that probably Precog is probably my favorite First Edition class.
Hmm. Fun.
so I'm glad to see that kinda come into
Yeah. Make its
Home
way.
of the Witch
Yeah.
Warper. Well, it's so there are things coming, questions that we have,
Yeah, there are things
things
coming.
to
We'll
talk
have
about.
stuff to talk about next.
So, but hypothetically here, this is a hypothetical question for you.
Yeah.
If we could bring
Mhm.
in the Starfinder team here and ask them one by one
Okay.
about things we know that are coming that we would like to get clarifying information on that they could talk about now, prior to actual releases on
Mhm.
things. What type of questions would you want to ask them?
Hmm. It's a quick, tricky question for
I
me
know it
because I
is
should have
really
also
tough for
known
you.
because yeah, obvious reasons. Let me think about it. Ron,
I have
do you
one.
have a question? Okay.
How do you envision rolling out ancestries? And I ask that because Pathfinder, I think, is a very different vision for rolling out ancestries. They did it in the core rule books. They've
Mhm.
got the Lost Omens books have an awful lot of. I mean, Lost Omens Ancestry, the Ancestry Guide is one of those that has a lot of ancestries. But I'm the guy that put the Shuni into an adventure path and received some pretty negative feedback from sort of the overall design team about where a new ancestry ought to go,
Mm,
right? Where a new
Mhm.
ancestry belongs versus where an ancestry does not belong. And I take issue with the whole belong because it's all we make our own rules when we're at Paizo, right? But that said, what I'd like to find out about is because we've got this, the Murder in Metal City Deluxe Adventure is going to have a new ancestry. The Galaxy Guide, which is
Yeah.
coming out before the core rulebook, has a bunch of ancestries in it, right? It seems that their plan is to be very free with more ancestries. Does that mean, first of all, how do they see their vision of rolling out ancestries? Are they going to kind of be throwing them into everything? And the follow up to that is, does that mean that ancestries that aren't in the core book going to be less supported, sort of definitionally? If we have the kind
mm.
of the plant creature that they've said is going to be part of Murder in Metal City, are we ever going to see more ancestry feats for them? And if so, will that be a little awkward to put them in a different book where they say you have to go buy this deluxe adventure to get the base ancestry? How do they intend to roll out ancestries? Is maybe one of
Mhm.
the questions I have.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I think.
And was that enough of a delay to give Jason time to come up with his question?
A little bit,
Okay.
yeah. I'm actually related to that. I am curious to know about more about, as always, adventures and what kind of are we going to see more deluxe box set deals? Adventure paths. I don't know if we've talked about any kind of thing like that, and if they're going to follow the same, Mechageddon,
Single book
Ballad
kinda
Stars
approach.
single book
Yeah,
versions.
yeah.
Another smaller team, so that would kind of make a little more sense to try to not have to try to put something out monthly and just sort of do the cadence of whenever. And like I, this is a question too. Like I want to like if they have thoughts about the fact the announced Pathfinder game night
Mhm.
um thing, and whether or not they would want to do something like that for Starfinder
Like a Starfinder
F1A.
game night.
Yeah, which is, basically like the everything you need to play just in one little
Now,
thing.
Pathfinder game night does have all the rules, right? You don't need the core rulebook to play that.
You don't need the core rule book to play it,
But
yeah,
you do
apparently.
need the core rulebook to play the Deluxe Adventure Murder in Middle City.
Yes. Right, so
They're
they're
different
not the
projects.
same
Even
thing.
though they will
Yeah,
both be
but
in
I wonder
boxes and sitting maybe next to each other on your game store
maybe,
shelf,
yeah, yeah,
Right.
they're sort of aiming towards different things.
yeah.
Okay.
They might be different size boxes, who knows?
Okay.
Well, I'm interested in so a while back, Organized Play Foundation surveyed players, in particular with regards to Starfinder, what kind of changes they would like to see going into Starfinder Second Edition. Now, what are for
Mhm.
lots of different things, and so I'm really curious to see how things are going to shake out, and we'll probably see it at Gen Con, for sure. And hopefully Alex will be talking about these things in terms of, you know, scenario frequency, scenario lengths,
Oh,
all
yeah.
kinds of stuff with that. For a while, Starfinder Society scenarios came out twice a month. First one time a month, then it ramped up to twice a month, and now it's kind of down to one time a month. Whereas Pathfinder's been pretty consistently twice a month. Starfinder Society scenarios are a lot of them can run notoriously long. And so, one of the feedback I
Mhm.
gave is, hey, we need to shorten these things up. And so I'm really curious to see how this thing's happen. Now, probably they have to wait till Alex announces something before they can talk more about that. Who knows, what kind of spoilers would.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really kind of excited about that. Yeah, it's a tough issue because you don't want them to spoil something they're not ready to spoil, right?
Sure, yeah,
So
I
yeah.
mean, we kind of do because then it would drive our viewer numbers way
I
up.
know, but that's not what we're about. I've always had somebody who worked at Paizo, either currently or in the past on this show, and I don't want to get people in trouble, and I don't want to get the company in trouble. Now, that's not what we're trying to
Sure.
do.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
clarifying, I think, is
The
good.
team yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The team would know well enough
Mhm.
to deflect and pivot
Right, right, right.
questions
But I
like
don't even
that,
want to
right?
put them in that position. That's not
So fair
that's
enough, yeah.
that's kind of not what the goal we have.
Can I have another thing? Can I get another vote
Oh yeah, as many as you
for what
like.
I'd wanna know I don't know many of the current Starfinder people, like, very well as people, as gamers, so I'd kinda want to get to know,
Oh, yeah, there you go.
what do they like playing that maybe isn't Starfinder? Or,
Oh yeah,
what have they had what are their real formative science fiction
yeah, yeah.
influences?
No, I think that's a good one.
Mhm,
That's the kinda
yeah.
thing that would be kinda fun to get to know them as people in their role.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to a former Starfinder developer, not named Jason Keeley, uh, and one of the things that he had mentioned was how Star Frontiers was so formative for a lot of the initial creation
Mhm.
of Starfinder. That
Oh, yeah,
was,
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of the initial people getting involved were really, really interested in that. And when I would look back at you know some different aspects of Star Frontiers, I can kind of see where some of that's come through. Well, now the new team is putting their own stamp on it. So I'm with Ron. I think
Oh, yeah.
where do they see? I mean, that's like really old stuff. So they're younger folks. Maybe they're pulling from all the new stuff that's out there. So I'd like to get a sense for where it's going based on that kind of stuff.
Mhm, yeah.
So speaking of kind of current things and what's going on, I heard that Jason has this obsession right now.
Right. This video game came out on Thursday, and I've been kind of playing it a little, almost nonstop to some detriments. Ron disappeared.
He does not want to hear about
Um,
your gameplay,
he
but
doesn't
he'll
want
be
to hear
back
a
in a
damn
second.
thing about it.
Here I am.
There you go. So I thought you had frozen there
It
for a
is
second.
awake.
Anyway, no, no, it's happening. Um, I should have been probably, working a little more freelance and whatnot, than and whatever. And the other night I was like, oh no, it's 11 o'clock. Anyway, this game is called Blue Prince, Prince, but that is a deliberate pun because the game is about sort of creating a house. Sort of
Oh,
as you
okay.
go, drafting different rooms. So it's got this. It's a puzzle. It's kind of a roguelike puzzle game. You get in, you have like a certain amount of time to go in, and you're this like 14-year-old kid who's like inherited his uncle's estate, and you have to find there's 45 rooms of estate. You have to find the mysterious 46th room, and so you're going in there and you get to an entrance chamber and there's a door. You go to a door and it goes, okay, now what do you want to be on the other side of the door? Is it the bedroom? Is it the hallway? Is it the library? Right, and then you just pick that and you go in, and maybe there's keys in there. There are like coins for buying stuff. You might find things and or other tools for so it's a little bit of an adventure game. And every day you basically have 50 steps, and a step is sort of entering a room. um, you go through that and you're trying to get all the way to the other side of the if you start from like one end of the m- manor and trying to get to
Trying to
the
get
other
to the
end
other.
basically. And it's and the rooms have different exits, and sometimes you can block them off if you're not being careful, or they're dead ends, and then you got to turn around and get right. You can make sure that you basically got this like 5 by 9 grid you've got to fit things in. And it's just like, and then if that happens, if you just can't get anywhere, you don't have the keys or gems or whatever enough or enough steps, the day is over, and then the whole house resets, and you've got to basically start from scratch.
Oh,
You maybe learn some information.
okay.
There's things puzzles you can suss out by learning things. You can I don't know. It's also this game is heavily like if I talk about it too much, I'll spoil it too
Okay.
much
Okay.
because there's a lot of secrets. And every time everyone said like the first couple days I'm playing, I'm like, what? Oh, what's happening? Oh my god! Ah, and just sort of blowing my mind. I still haven't gotten to that room yet. I got really close the other just like earlier tonight. Um, but I was presented with a puzzle I couldn't quite get past for whatever reason. So I had to kind of start over, and now I have to kind of get the thing that does the thing and do the thing. And but it's also this randomness in it that is sort of a little frustrating sometimes because it's like I know the puzzle to do this and this, like to power up the machine in the laboratory, you have to have the boiler room next to it. But how do you can't plan to put those two things together. You kind of have to get lucky and kind of draw them
Okay.
close to one another, do something to basically get them close to one another, or like oh, I got the boiler room. I'm going to try to, but say once you go to a door and open it, you have to put a room there. You can't go like, well, never mind.
Wow.
And it's just like,
Who would have thought a
it's
puzzle
so much,
guy
there's
would
so
like a
much going on.
puzzle game, you know?
Who would have thought? But who would have thought I'd like this so
Yeah.
much? I didn't realize it was gonna like grip me. So, I mean, I was hearing good
Yeah,
reviews
yeah.
about it, and I played the demo when it came out. I was like, "Oh, this is kind of interesting. I'm gonna be bad at this, but I'm actually not terrible
And
at it."
this is why you're taking Monday and
Um,
Tuesday off? I didn't realize that.
a little bit, yes. To be honest, yes. It just happened to
Yeah, it
coincide
just
with the fact
happened.
that
Yeah, I do that a lot with releases too.
we shipped Battlecry to the printer on Friday. And so I'm like, oh, I'll take a couple days off. But I'm going to be doing that. And I'm also going to be going to a jigsaw puzzle competition tomorrow
Oh,
night.
Oh
fun.
my.
Yes, with Joe Piscini. He found out about it and he went to one and he was like, and he brought back the puzzle and we, so you got to do this. And so it's like a 250, whatever, it's going to be a different puzzle, obviously, but it's probably like a 250 piece, but weird cut. And like, and apparently like people from, I think it's in Portland, and there's some people from Portland who weren't there last time because they were at like the national championships or something like that. So we'll be competing against some real heavy hitters.
Wow.
So
Wow.
Well, I
I
have
don't know how,
confidence in
it'll
you and
be a
Joe
good thing.
Cassini. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's
Well, yes, we did pretty good. We did pretty good.
Represent.
We'll probably be around half an hour to get this puzzle done, but that's what I'm hoping. Whether or not I don't know if that'll get us any. I don't know. I don't even know if there's like a prize or anything. It's just sort of like they do that. Apparently, they do this every Monday at this place, which is the name I can't remember, but whatever. So puzzles, yes, puzzles. and also puzzles.
The prize should be
Um,
one single piece of some meta jigsaw puzzle that you have to get with all the winners
oh
over the course of a
God.
year in order to solve.
Wow. That's the long game.
And that is a treasure map that
Yeah, yeah,
leads to
exactly.
Blackbeard's gold.
Right. Well, it's close enough to Astoria that it's like One-Eyed Willie and,
Oh,
the
sure, yeah, yeah,
Goonies
yeah, yeah.
Secret
Up,
Treasure.
up,
That's
the
as
Goonies,
soon as
Goonies,
you're
yeah.
doing any pirate hunting near Astoria, that's what it's gotta be.
Yeah. Well,
Never say die.
so for me, I'm really getting into Shadow Dark. I'm really interested in that, and got to play some
Oh yeah, yeah,
last
okay.
weekend, and I'm going to play some this weekend at another convention, NorwestCon, which
Hooray!
Paizo
Yeah.
is the
Oh, fun.
spotlight publisher for it.
Hmm.
And
Do we send in anybody to
Quite a
that?
Jenny
lot
and
quite a few
Mike
people,
from
yes.
the Starfighter
Oh
team.
yes, that's right. I think I know
Yeah,
about this. Yeah, I think I know
they're
about
the
this.
reps, so that'll be exciting. And I hear Ron's going to be
Nice.
a special guest panelist on
I am on
several.
a panelist for a lot of panels. I think that'll be a lot of fun, and I'm on a lot of panels with Paizo people that I know. And a
Hmm.
lot of people from the industry that I've met before, and then a lot of people from the industry I haven't met before, but I want to. And so being on a panel is a good.
So we'll
Cool.
have more to report back afterwards. So hopefully next time we'll have lots of stuff to talk about. We'll see. I'll
We
have to
Sure.
try to
ended up with a lot of stuff
convince.
to talk about this time too. I mean, it ended up.
Oh, we do well. But so our task then is to corner some Starfinder folks to see if they'll answer our questions on the air. Think we can do that?
All right, you get on that.
Corner them in an exceptionally polite way,
Yes. Oh,
right?
of course. Yeah, we wouldn't. Yeah,
I mean, you've done so many interviews with
I,
so many of these people,
I've
right? You
interviewed
can
them, but
leverage past
they
connections.
don't want to. Maybe they don't want
Mm.
to talk to me again. I don't know. Too
I
much
oh,
interview.
well,
Well,
then
I'm sure they
offer them,
will.
say you can come on the show and you can ignore everything that John says, and you'll
Yes, you
just
can
have to
just.
listen to
In fact,
Jason
I
and
won't
Ron.
even be here. It'll just be
What do we
Jason
even
and
run? I
Ron.
No.
have no technical competence when it comes to actually putting this together.
Yeah.
I don't know that people realize how important John is to everything here. As well as setting Zoom up and
Sure.
doing all the
Yes.
editing. I mean, literally, the camera I'm talking into is, or the camera I'm looking at, and the microphone I'm talking into, was it John gave me just so that we could do this. I mean,
Hmm.
that's
It
John is the
works. It
backbone of
works.
all this.
All right. Well, this has been another fun and exciting week, and I look forward to more and more information as it comes out here. Hopefully.
Learning.
We're getting there. We're getting to the point. We're getting to the point where we'll have stuff
Yes.
to like concrete second edition
Yes.
stuff to talk about.
Yes.
Not necessarily enough, maybe not necessarily enough to last us until August, but at least a few of these episodes will be about concrete
Concrete
second
stuff.
edition stuff.
Yes. That's our goal. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
I'm
I
John.
can put at the end
Oh,
that at the end instead of the beginning that I got a bunch of new chicks. We have
oh
9 new
yeah. We
chicks.
forgot about that. You
So
Ooh.
guys were going to
the
show me.
chickens
I forgot to go out there.
now I mean it's not like you're not going to
Uh,
be here again. My I think I might have mentioned that our flock went from 8 over the winter to
Yeah.
3.
yeah, you did. Yeah.
Well we're starting again with a whole new flock. We have 9 baby chicks now that are in the underneath the heat
Mm,
lamp and the little place for them in our garage where they could stay warm and toasty and safe. Um,
nice.
Safe in particular from the husky we have, who considers them to be bite-sized, so we
Oh,
gotta keep
Well,
the
oh,
husky
yes.
that
away.
she's going to be that way with it. How's she with the other
So,
chickens?
it doesn't seem to care about them very much. I mean, the
Oh,
chickens kinda keep
hmm.
to themselves, and they're skittish. I mean, obviously, because they're the 3 of the 8 that have survived,
Yes.
probably because they are the most skittish.
Right.
Um, but it's survival trait, I guess.
Hmm.
Well, we'll have to get
But
more
anyway,
updates and pictures even that we can
Yes.
post.
this time I put the chicken update at the end rather than at the
Yes,
beginning, but,
I know that
Yeah.
makes
Keep
no.
the people listening
That's exactly
so they
right.
get to the
we
chicken
Now
should have
maybe
update.
next time
teased
I
it
will
though.
stop mid-sentence in the middle of the show in order
Yeah.
to give a chicken
No, then
update.
they'll tune out once you've given chicken
No, we
news.
should have teased and listen to the end for another chicken update. That's what you're supposed to
Yeah.
do
Well, next
next
time,
time.
next time, you got to listen all the way through.
That's right.
And if Ron doesn't say anything about the chickens, you have
Yeah.
to just keep listening.
You know,
That's right.
speaking of if we're going to do updates, when I drove by the goat hugs place, there was a whole family. There were tons of people there getting goat hugs.
Oh,
Whoa,
really?
whoa, 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 whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, 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 whoa,
I
whoa.
haven't.
You guys have never told me about goat
Yeah, we did.
hugs.
We talked
Yeah.
about it on the
Have
air.
you?
The north part of Carnation. There is I won't go into it. I can go into the details about the way the city is structured in kind of a funny way, but there's a place you drive by on the main highway out of town with a sign that says "Goat Hugs $5," and they have goats, and you can go
I
pet
have the
their
worst
goats.
I
memory.
know we told you
What's that?
this, and you
Okay.
said you'd be all over
You must
that.
I must
We
have.
talked about a Goat Hug subscription. I'm gonna have to bring this back in a flashback.
I have terrible
Like,
We could do
memories.
like a little picture in
yeah.
picture of the
Yeah.
actual when you
Yeah.
talked about it
Okay,
before,
okay, fair
and
enough. Did I ever told you guys that the hardware store and feed store in Janera House has donkeys and chickens and geese and ducks and
No,
wait, really?
I
Yeah,
don't.
you
pigeons?
have,
Yeah,
yes.
I have mentioned that.
Okay,
Okay, okay. I
I
had
don't
to get
remember
terrible memory.
donkeys.
Sorry. So
I don't remember
yeah, they
donkeys
have
either, but I
Yeah.
donkeys.
remember you talking
Doesn't
about ducks and
oh
chickens and geese and stuff.
Yeah. All
okay.
right.
So how many
They have
donkeys have
yeah.
you signed up for? Is that
I can't get near the donkeys.
okay?
Can only look at them from afar.
Or is that fair?
Yeah.
All right.
You want
I'm
to try
gonna
to sign us
close
out now,
now.
John?
You guys ready?
Close this out. Yeah, let's do it.
For the
I,
sake of everyone, I think. Well,
I'm John.
and I'm Ron.
and I'm Jason, and this has been Donkey Divination.